Did you know what society was like before the French Revolution? What about after the revolution? How did new ideas about individual rights and societal power spread across Europe and Asia? As we dive into the second chapter, Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution, we'll discover the gripping events and fiery figures that shaped the world as we know it today. Not only is this chapter interesting in understanding the course of world events, but it also holds great importance for students as it is often asked in exams. But what sparked this period of dramatic societal transformation? To study this age of social change, we've divided this video into the following parts for your understanding. First, liberals, radicals, and conservatives, or the people with different attitudes towards societal change. Second, industrial society and social change, or the outcome of changes. Third, the coming of socialism to Europe, and what were the forces supporting or against it. Fourth, support for socialism, or the formation of other organizations. So, to understand this chapter, let's first understand. What is a revolution? A revolution is a fundamental and rapid change in the way a society is organized or governed. It usually involves a significant shift in power from one group or individual to another, and various factors, such as social, economic, or political issues, can drive it. Let's dive in and explore the history of the age of social change. Back then, society was much different from what we see today. In the 18th century, society was divided into estates and orders, and the aristocracy and church held the power of social and economic control. However, after the French Revolution, the possibility of dramatic societal change emerged. People started discussing new ideas about individual rights and who should control social power in many parts of the world, including Europe and Asia. The development in the colonies reshaped these ideas further. Now, let's start with the first topic: liberals, radicals, and conservatives. So, what were the different ideologies towards societal change? In response, people's attitudes towards societal change varied. Some believed change was necessary but wanted a gradual shift, while others wanted a complete restructuring of society. There were conservatives who opposed the change, liberals who believed in safeguarding individual rights, and radicals who wanted a government based on the majority of the population. Let us study about these political ideologies in detail. Liberals wanted a nation that tolerated all religions and opposed the uncontrolled power of dynastic rulers. They wanted to safeguard the rights of individuals against governments. They argued for a government with elected representatives and an independent judiciary to interpret and enforce laws. However, they did not believe in universal adult franchise, that is, the right of every citizen to vote. Felt a man of the property mainly should have the vote, and also did not want the vote for women. On the other hand, radicals wanted a nation in which the government was based on the majority of the country's population and supported women's suffrage movements, which is the right of women by law to vote. They opposed the privileges of great landowners and wealthy factory owners but were not against the existence of private property. They disliked the concentration of property in the hands of a few. Conservatives opposed radicals and liberals, but after the French Revolution, even conservatives had opened their minds to the need for change. In the 18th century, conservatives had been generally opposed to the idea of change. By the 19th century, they accepted that some change was inevitable but believed that the past had to be respected and change had to be brought about through a slow process. In summary, the ideologies of liberals, radicals, and conservatives differed significantly on various issues. Also students, to make your preparation easy and complete, you must go through the mind map of this chapter on EduRev. It can help you remember all those tricky dates and names in a structured way. You can also find mind maps of all chapters to score good grades. As we have understood the first topic, it's time to move on to the second one: industrial society and social change. The industrial change brought about massive changes to European societies, but with it came many problems that affected the working class. As new cities came up and newly industrialized regions developed, railways expanded, and the Industrial Revolution occurred, working hours were often long, wages were poor, unemployment was common, and problems of housing and sanitation were growing rapidly. But, how did liberals and radicals try to address these issues? Were their solutions effective in improving the lives of the poor and working class? Liberals and radicals searched for solutions to these issues. Liberals and radicals, who were themselves often property owners and employers, strongly believed in the values of individual effort, labor, and enterprise. They believed that societies would flourish if the freedom of individuals was ensured, the poor were able to work, and those with capital could operate without hindrance. On the other hand, how did certain groups envision using revolution to bring about change? Certain groups, including some nationalists, liberals, and radicals, sought to utilize revolution to bring an end to the European governments established in 1815. Nationalists envisioned revolutions that would establish nations, where all citizens would have equal rights. So what role did Giuseppe Mazzini play in this? Giuseppe Mazzini was an Italian nationalist, and his associates worked towards achieving this goal in Italy after 1815. Overall, the efforts of liberals and radicals had some impact in addressing the issues faced by the working class during the Industrial Revolution, but their solutions were not always effective. Now that we've explored different attitudes and the outcome of changes, let's turn our attention to the third topic: the coming of socialism to Europe. But what exactly was socialism? During the middle of the 19th century in Europe, socialism became a well-known ideology that gained significant attention. Socialists strongly opposed the concept of private property, which they believed was the root cause of all social problems of that time. Instead of private ownership, they emphasized the importance of collective social interests. Socialists had diverse views on how society should function, and one such example was Robert Owen, a prominent English manufacturer who aimed to establish a cooperative community named New Harmony in Indiana, USA. Another socialist, Louis Blanc, 1813–1882, advocated for the government to promote cooperatives to replace capitalist enterprises. These cooperatives were to be associations of individuals who produced goods together and shared profits based on their contributions. Karl Marx, 1818–1883, and Friedrich Engels, 1820–1895, also contributed additional ideas to this body of arguments. Overall, socialism emerged as a response to the problems and inequalities brought about by industrialization and capitalism. While there were different strands of socialist thought, they all shared the belief that collective action and the common good should take precedence over individual interests and private property. As we come to the end, let's take a moment to reflect on the last topic: support for socialism. So, who were the socialists who supported socialism, and what solutions did they propose for the spread of socialism? The fame of socialism led to the formation of the Second International, which was an organization of socialist and labor parties formed in 1889. In response, English and German laborers started to create organizations to advocate for improved living and employment conditions. They established financial resources to assist members in difficult situations and demanded a decrease in working hours and the right to vote. In Germany, the Social Democratic Party achieved parliamentary representation, while in 1905, socialists and trade unionists formed a Labour Party in Britain and a Socialist Party in France. Although their ideals influenced legislation, conservatives, liberals, and radicals continued to lead governments. In conclusion, the socialist movement had a significant impact on European societies during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, inspiring labor movements, political parties, and legislation aimed at improving the conditions of workers. So, as we come to the end of this video, we can conclude that the age of social change was a period of significant ideas and movements that shaped the future of the world. As we continue to study, we will cover the remaining part of the chapter in the upcoming videos. Also, make sure to study chapter notes, watch video lectures and solve MCQ tests of this chapter on EduRev to ensure you score well in your school exams. Not just social studies, you get amazing courses for maths, science, Hindi, English or much more on EduRev. Thank you.